content is for informational and educational purposes only. You should not construe any such information or other material as legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. Nothing contained here constitutes a solicitation, recommendation, endorsement, or offer to buy or sell any securities or other financial instruments whatsoever by Draper Gorin Blockchain, aka DGB, the presenter, or other associated parties for the content being provided. Please do your own due diligence and seek proper counsel.
Boom. Welcome. Number 39. I'm stoked to have Nathaneo on today and Nate. So I can't slip up and call Nate Nathaniel, or else we're just gonna get confused, which is awesome.
Trouble.
But Nathaneo, so Nate actually goes by Nate all the time, but I've known him for years now, and I would call him Nathaniel because that's how I met him for years. And when we started working with you, very soon after, we started working with Nate again, and that was, part of cementing. Okay, we're gonna call him Nate, kind of like in our Slack. Like, I don't know if you've noticed this, but we have like David Rankin and David Blesnak, and I always call them by their last names. Yeah. And then it's we just have lots of really similar names and overlaps in our Slack, so it's really funny. We're leaning into nicknames and stuff. It's pretty awesome. But Nathaneo, did we have you on the live stream yet? I feel like we did have you on early on, like at least once, to talk about this. Maybe not. I'm mixing it up between our. Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, though, Nathaneo is a college student. He's getting towards the end of his run, and he started a really rad startup called Series, which helps entrepreneur students network and get their ideas off the ground, do a ton of cool things. And we're stoked to have you on, and we'll dive into Series, but also excited to have Rankin and Nate on with us today too. We got a whole crew, which I'm really excited about. So first off, Nathaneo, why don't you give everyone your background? Also, where in the world are you today? Are you back in New York, or where are you at?
I was in New York yesterday, but yeah, right here I'm posted up at Yale University. And yeah, it's a bit of background about me. I'm a junior right now studying computer science and economics. So finished the first half of college, crazy experience, of course, and excited for the next steps ahead. And yeah, I've always been interested about entrepreneurship, always been a technologist too. Essentially what we're doing at Series is we're unlocking entrepreneurial potential, right? And that's kind of just speaking upon everyone who's had some wild idea at some point in their lives to change the world. We help you make that happen. So I'm excited to share more about that today.
Heck yeah. So going into it a little bit, what like when you say, helping people get started, do all that stuff, I know it's a startup, it's the beginning of the journey in a way, so things are gonna evolve and change, but what's sort of the first version of the product look like, and how do you help people?
No, 100%. I mean, take a look here, right?
Here. I'm throwing your screen up.
Okay. Yeah. So kind of to just walk it through and it just, right, is I feel like, as I mentioned, right, especially I think people as a whole, but right now we're kind of focusing on students first, how these ideas to change the world often lack that clarity to bring them to life. And, entrepreneurship isn't really considered a career path. And if you really kind of think about it, right, there's career paths in finance, consulting, tech, but entrepreneurship isn't. And the reason why is because that lifestyle is very uncertain, right? I think at the end of the day, the way to ensure that you're gonna IPO, right, or get acquired, or make a worldwide impact through a nonprofit or whatever it is so essentially just hard to predict, right, and control. So that's essentially what we're trying to do here, right? So our product essentially at Series is we build these timelines personalized for you to essentially help you visualize a path to your ambition. What essentially does, in one word, is it ensures certainty of achieving your goal, right? You have a lot of people who are kind of coming in, especially in the college level, who are very maybe nervous or scared to start. I think around 66% of Americans, just as a whole, have an idea to start a business, but 7% pursue it, right? And above that, 14% of those 7% have a plan to do so, And sometimes those plans are kind of wonky because they don't know exactly which steps you need to take to ensure that goal. And what we do here at Series is we learn about you to essentially provide certainty to know what steps you need to take to, achieve the entrepreneurial dream. And the kind of secret sauce behind how we do that essentially is Vera, which is the world's first AI mentor. So she's kind of behind your series. She's helping you, accomplish your day-to-day tasks, introducing you to new people, and kind of ensuring that you can be held accountable to, take the steps you need on that certainty path to success.
That's awesome. So essentially, you have an AI mentor that guides you through the process of entrepreneurship and makes introductions, figures, helps you out and does things like that.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, that's the biggest thing is essentially just guiding you on your timeline, on your path, because ultimately, right, if you kind of just break down entrepreneurship in a simple form, whenever someone's trying to do, say, the small step, right, maybe they're building, some software, so they need to code out the back end, or they're, building a sports drink business and they're trying to, get some PLs, whatever the kind of immediate goal is. If everyone was kind of certain on what to do to get there, right, they do it. The only thing left there is just accountability, which kind of, I think in my mind, filters who's meant to be an entrepreneur and who's not. But what we do is we try to make the degree of certainty as high as possible by allowing, right, your timeline, allowing Vera to kind of instruct you and guide you through that timeline to say, here's kind of what you need to do to get to that long-term goal and vision. Because oftentimes people are in a weird position where they're here today, it's called point A, right? And they have this dream and vision of them being at, I don't know, whatever, a billionaire. They have a vision of being the greatest clothing brand owner to ever exist. And that's point B. And there's this huge gap, there's this huge black box between point A and point B on how exactly to do that. And you may get advice for some people, you may get the right connections for some people, or the right, say, service provider to make some small inch towards that point B, that new vision, but ultimately it's usually unknown, right? So at Series, we help you get from point A to point B, hence the name, to give you that certainty and clarity on what to do to get there.
I really like this just because of the fact that there's two ways of doing it in life, seems like, right? Going out there and learning the hard way and tripping and failing over and over again, or having a good mentor and having somebody point you in the right direction. And it seems like it's a lot easier when you have something like that. Like, I mean, I had ideas like 15, 20 years ago that I really wish I had that mentor that said, hey, go do this, or had somebody to be able to ask the right questions to then lead me down the path to be able to talk to the right person, talk to the right VC, that would help me start that progress rather than, having to trip and fall multiple times. Yeah. So I think Hero does that.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting on the path, but I think there's also like kind of two things as I'm thinking about it out loud, and I could be wrong, so let's debate it a little bit. But like, is telling someone the right thing important, or is telling somebody anything important? And the reason I'm going to say that is because at the beginning of the journey, you kind of have to trip and fall or just start moving. And it's almost, in my opinion, the most important part is telling them something and then making them confident that they can actually do it. Because I think the biggest issue is people going, I have this idea, they don't know where to start, but getting started is all you actually have to do. And then like showing up, right? Showing up is not the most important thing, but maybe it is the most important thing, but you got to have some,
But sometimes it's just giving you a direction as to where to start stepping, right? Yeah. Which direction to start walking. And if you can give somebody a path that, hey, start doing this, then that gives them the comfortability to actually start working forward and attempting something, right? The biggest hurdle is people just never starting most of the time.
Yeah, they never start, but also, I was going to say also they don't have the accountability. That's what I was going to say, Nathaneo. Touch on also how like the app allows you, or the app creates accountability between itself in terms of Vera being your mentor and also the end user being us that would be utilizing it, and how like that accountability you guys have created within you guys' process.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, just to even touch on the earlier point to connect it back here, right? You do have to trip and fall multiple times. And I think what actually you can kind of realize in entrepreneurship, right, is, say you're pre-idea, right? Kind of the scariest part as an entrepreneur. We kind of want to build something, right? There's a certain amount of iterations, if you just look at historical examples, where you're most likely than not getting into the math a little bit, right? To find the right idea. And then if you do the right tests and the right subjects and you provide the right experience, you're going to find your initial market. You're going to find, how to build your first MVP, and you can keep making these iterations to where you're able to reach a long-term success. And I think that's one most important part of it, to where you're able to kind of, I guess, what we're trying to do here is kind of break up those different steps. And yes, exactly, by giving them a direction to go into, not necessarily saying that this is the only direction to go, but it's the right direction, as in it's going to help you make progress towards that long-term goal. And then the other side of it, right, is accountability, right? And yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point, Nick, because I would say, right, it is important that, we have that. And that's why, so for Vera, right, you have these weekly check-ins, right? Just like any other mentor. You're hopping on usually a phone call. We're actually working on a Zoom feature for FaceTime. So it's a very kind of cool, trippy concept there. But it's to build that more interpersonal connection, kind of with that AI. But regardless, right, that's a check-in call to where you're updating her. She's kind of following up with you. She has your phone number, right? She has her own phone number. She can text you reminders, call you to check in here and there. And that does kind of, as you build a personal relationship with Vera, enable you to be more likely to work towards your dream. But ultimately, I think the biggest accountability factor is going to be you seeing your own series, you seeing a version of yourself accomplishing those things in the future, because that's going to motivate you to actually listen to the accountable check-in and work forward, right? Because otherwise, if you had someone, let's say, harassing you to do your homework, say like, back when we were all in middle school or high school, to, finish that piece or whatever it is, if you're not really motivated about the long-term vision of why you're doing it, you're just not going to, regardless of how many reminders that you get. But the true accountability factor is knowing that you could be something, right, that you're trying to work towards right now, and this system, right, can help you get there. And then all you need then is just reminders, which we try to incorporate throughout our product.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So you send reminders, and then Vera checks in and goes, "Hey, Rankin, how'd it go? Did you shoot that email we discussed, or whatever?" And I think that kind of stuff, just those reminders and those check-ins are important, because I think most people, if they do get a text, right, like or get a message, it doesn't matter that it's AI. It's just it is somebody checking on them, right? And they're not gonna go like, "Oh, I don't have to respond. That's a robot." Like, I think you do have this emotional, like, "Oh shit, I do need to send that thing."
And there's two factors you plan on emotions. Actually, funny you brought that up, but I think emotions actually a very important aspect to kind of the underlying gluing this together, because you're emotionally tied to a vision because it's you, right? You see here the series, like these are predictions of what you're going to be doing in the future, right? You're going to have an urgency to reach that. And then on the flip side, the more you're talking to Vera, and that's why we're trying to make it more human in the aspect of creating FaceTime and giving it more humanistic features, is that you're also going to treat that with more respect, right? Instead of it being a 6-digit phone number that's reminder in all caps, please email this person, right? You're kind of feel less of an urgency, versus you have a profile picture to contact, you've been talking to her, she's reaching out in a human-like style. It's going to incentivize you more to do that. So the emotional connection between your own self and with Vera, right, kind of in that triangulate system, definitely propels you forward to continue to hold yourself accountable too and complete those tasks necessary.
Yeah, well, it's like a game. You're not going to win if you don't show up, right?
Yeah.
And what makes you successful is good habits repeated over and over again.
Yeah,
as long as you continue those, you're going to succeed eventually. You're going to win, but you have to start. And I think that's the biggest thing that I tell my younger kids is, like, you just have to show up. 90% of the game is just showing up and being there and doing it every day and developing good habits, and good things will come, right? And I think if you have a mentor or a training system, an AI that's helping you, remind you of these targets and goals and helping you down the path, you have a good, it's going to help. It's going to be a helpful tool, I think, for a lot of people, especially young people.
Nate, you when I met you, you were in the entrepreneurship program at
right.
CLU here, and I'm like on the board of something. Mostly, I think it's just to hang out with Mike and all the students and stuff like that. But like, so I met you there. You were part of that program. You started a few startups out of that program. You did pitch events and all sorts of stuff. If something like this existed back then, do you think you guys would have utilized it? And with the absence of something like this, what did you need instead? And was that hard to deal with, right? Like, finding actual, mentors and things like that, which this isn't a replacement for human mentors. This actually could probably help with making connections to human mentors that are valuable and stuff. But what I'm just saying is, was something like this missing for you? What would you have done with it? And, how are we going to get this in the hands of every entrepreneurship student, not just the ones at Yale, right? We got to make sure everyone is able.
So great point. Geez. 8 years ago now, there wasn't, I think the biggest thing that lacked was the communication. So like, what I mean by communication is there was no channel or platform where we could communicate, one, with a mentor, two, where we can communicate with other people that have the same like-minded interests, right? So the only way you would communicate with people would be if you go to a hackathon or you go to a startup weekend and you find a lot of people there and you stay in touch with them, just texting them or on the phone. That was your only way of staying in touch, right? There was no other way. It wasn't like you were finding other people. Oh, he just lost.
It's cool. What's funny is I was about to switch and I realized he had a cool screen on with Vera's network that was showing all the the fact that Vera, I think, can connect you with real people. But anyway, let's keep going, and then he'll probably hop back on.
Okay. Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we didn't have is there was no way to communicate with other people that were working on other projects, right? That were our same age. And so you didn't get motivation from others. So you had to go ahead and get the motivation from people like yourself, right? Then how are you meeting them? Well, if you don't attend a startup week, if you don't attend a hackathon, but you have this great idea, you don't get the insight. And the other thing too is there wasn't a app unless you were going to reach out to people on LinkedIn that you did your own research on. There was no avenue to actually ask your candid questions on a daily or weekly basis, right? Unless you're reaching out to people on LinkedIn. And how many people are going to build an actual conversation with you? So what I'm trying to say is this would have been greatly appreciated if we would have had it, especially because of the feature of how it connects you with other people that are, one, could help your company, but two, maybe if you can help them as well, right? So that's one of my favorite features, let's call it, and benefits of Series is the ability to go ahead and have other people on the same network in an omni-channel, right, all together, where it allows you to kind of bring the like-mindedness and the ideas together, and it gives you the suggestions. Nathaneo, can you elaborate on some of the connectability and how it kind of suggests different people that maybe could help each individual idea or company that they have that might be in their network, that they would go ahead and be like, hey, you should connect with them? Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? Because that's what I want people to understand is that wasn't around 7, 8, 9 years ago, was that ability.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think the biggest kind of point in that, kind of how it works, right, is, Vera at the end of the day is an AI, right? So all the kind of immediate advice and guidance, direction, and maybe even like immediate help she can do is always going to be somewhat limited. And always limited in the sense of every human has a limited scope of knowledge, right? So what we kind of enabled to make sure that everyone has access to a plethora of it is if you're seeking, kind of insights or action items beyond what an AI can do, right? Or from different people who have those skill sets and ideas, right? Vera has this, right, warm network of other people, services, experts. You got maybe exited founders to experienced venture capitalist firms, maybe even PhD students, right, studying different, edges of science or other fields. And Vera can connect you with them to further kind of give you the knowledge, resource, or action items that you need to build your venture, right? And I think that kind of does play really a huge part in how we're able to help you kind of grow towards that series and grow on your timelines, because we're certain of the resources that we have at our disposal. We know that we can help you kind of ideate through anything, build anything. We hire the resources and people to help you develop those things, or maybe get the right legal counsel, whatever it is. So when we kind of tell you that, hey, you're going to be here in 5 years or 3 months, it's because we have not only the resources on the technological side and the AI side, but we also have a network of individuals who are willing and happy to help you get there.
Can you talk further about like the difference between maybe an entrepreneur who's a business-minded person using it, and maybe has strong strengths in marketing but doesn't have the development skills, versus maybe an entrepreneur who's a tech person who has a tech idea but needs to connect with the marketing side? Like, how would that help facilitate that connection? Because I will say that that's probably one of the things that I've experienced in life is I had an idea for a product, I had a basic model, but I wasn't the guy that developed it out, right? And so finding the network to build that company.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I think there's really kind of the thing where, there's two ways to kind of always approach solving a problem, right? Is whether you can kind of, grind out yourself, right? To where maybe you learn different code solutions online, whatever. Some people do that, especially when they're kind of strapped for capital, or otherwise, when you have that resource available to you, which kind of come through funding or just through your own kind of personal finances, and you can actually expedite and speed up the process of things. And Vera's able to make that distinction of where, if you're looking to do it the long way, for example, coding something, then here are the resources to learn code right here. Here's what we can do to check in to make sure you're building that, or the connection to the right service provider who can build that for you.
And then hopefully network with some of those people, maybe the VCs who can provide capital to forward the development or whatever. I'll say that was probably my biggest friction being young, is I had an idea, I had a product template, and then it was like, well, I need to develop this out, but I don't know any VCs who are offering, and like, how do you pitch them?
I think that's the beauty of today, and this is a combo, I think, of like what the Founder Series is doing and just general motivations, is that like the biggest problem I think I encountered growing up, and that is probably amplified way worse to people who aren't growing up like in the United States or in Southern California or in certain communities, right? Is that my parents were immigrants, right? I grew up, in the back of an auto parts shop, and I didn't know that opportunities existed that I didn't know about, right? I didn't know what a VC was, or let alone do it. And then one of the biggest misconceptions too is that it's really hard to reach out to them or to get in front of them or whatever. It's not. They just have to be told that they can do it. So I think there's a combination now of like AI, like let's say you don't know about Series and you don't know about Vera, and you just get a Chat GPT subscription. One, that's really general and it's not trained to something specific. But let's say you have it, you essentially have like superpowers now compared to what we had just like a year ago. But like, let's say when we were 20 years old, and not only do you have superpowers, but still you don't know what's available and what you can do, and you don't know how to reach people. And the combination of Vera actually proactively reaching back out to you, accountability, and then the ability for it to make connections to people. Because even when Nate was going to CLU and I met him at an event, right? And he goes, "Ooh, I love your help. Rob and I and a bunch of people are doing this startup kids program. I want you to help us, mentor us, whatever." It's still, he has to be the proactive one, which is totally normal. And he's going to reach out to me, and I give advice when I give advice, but I'm not very often, and I don't think most mentors are very often, being super proactive the other direction and then contacting and going, "Hey, Nate, did you do that thing I told you about? Or how did it go?" It would be up to Nate to come back. And that's part of being a good entrepreneur, being good at sales, being good at all sorts of things, is being the one who follows up. But if you have essentially this tool that's continually following up and doing it, you're taking that superpower that we all can have access to now in different ways and like really putting it into overdrive. And I think the combo of it all can totally change the game and can train you to be a better version of what Rankin said, right? Showing up and just moving forward each time. You're like, you are in a way like being coached up and trained the way a personal trainer teaches you. You go every week, they put you into certain motions, and then all of a sudden, after 6 months, after a month, after a year, you start to have those habits, and it's just a part of your life, right? Like in sports, right? They teach you to run a certain way, and you get better at it, better at it. Then, it becomes second nature. You don't have to think about it each time you do it, right?
Exactly.
I think this could amplify the educational process too of becoming an entrepreneur and teaching your mind and your body and everything to think in the entrepreneurial way and to think about how to just get shit done. I think that's a huge problem too. Like we've hired people at DGB and everybody's worked with people who are really good, really smart, but might not have the drive or don't have the kind of like get shit done mentality that you need in a startup mode, right? Where in my opinion, every person in the startup needs it, not just the founders who are hungry, right? And this is in a way a really great way to train you to execute, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So are people able to sign up right now, or is it still in beta, or can people start signing up?
Yeah, essentially. So we kind of are still in private beta. We're essentially using people to talk to via phone call and text. So we kind of onboard them privately, but we're releasing the app I guess still private beta, but somewhat available probably next week around. So adding in
where are they going right now? So if somebody wants to come and access this, what site are they going to? Let's just share that.
They're going to series.sl. Yeah, exactly. So they can join the wait list. We kind of right now we actually took that down like last week just because we had bunch of signups to filter through them. We're kind of going one by one and reaching out to everyone who signs up, inviting a few to private beta based on, if they would be a good fit to try this. And then beyond that, people can join the network as well through a website via Join Us. And then that kind of allows us to track and have very good update on who's working on that as well.
Sweet. I just brought it up on the screen. Could you guys see it? Because I'm in the other tab.
Yeah.
Sweet. Oh, there's that section that I was about to bring on the screen when Nathaneo dropped earlier, right? Like showing that Vera has a network and that it'll be able to connect you with certain people within the network and stuff like that, right? So sort of a proactive version of a LinkedIn that's much smarter, right? Really, really cool stuff. So yeah, series.so, sign up there, right?
Another question. If somebody wants to be a mentor, if somebody has experience in business and thinks they could be a good mentor for some new entrepreneurs, where would they go and sign up? I assume you're still looking for mentors, right?
Yeah. All the network sites. If you could join us, you can actually sign up on the network side to be looped in. Yeah.
Okay. And that through the same site?
Yeah. Join us on the nav bar. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So what kind of mentors are you looking for?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is funny enough, we try to categorize mentors in an expert category, essentially, because mentors can have different fields of expertise, right? And ultimately that comes into someone who can give the right advice to the right person, right? At the end of the day, right, as a person who you're consistently talking to, we want that to be Vera in the sense that she's able to extrapolate enough data from who your conversations are with, how that's going and guides in the right direction. But a lot of times mentors will have a specific niche or field, and maybe that's go to market, it's fundraising, whatever it is, which kind of puts them in a perfect position for Vera to say, this is when you need to talk to this person. And that kind of helps you on your journey and building out your business.
Real quick. So for the audience that doesn't know and is brand new to this, this is for anyone with an idea in business, correct? It doesn't matter if it's cosmetics or if it's an e-commerce product. It's any product that someone has an idea about that they're in the startup phase. It's not just one industry, correct?
Yeah, 100%. I think I've seen people use Vera for building a hot yoga studio, so it kind of goes in every direction.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's so funny. I just happened to look at my phone and it's unrelated, but very related, right? The fact that you're very conscious about, this AI guiding you and checking for accountability, but also connecting you with real humans to actually make sure you're moving in the right direction and stuff is really crazy important. I had a funny discussion with actually Mike Panesis, who's the head of the entrepreneurship program. It's old school. And he was actually really frustrated with the way some entrepreneurs actually report or show total addressable market or the serviceable market and all this stuff. And he was having this goofy, Kevin, I'm wearing, of course I'm wearing my Tezos jersey. It's one of the only jerseys I wear. And the funny thing is that soccer was my first sport growing up. My family was obsessed with it, but I don't watch any professional teams at all. Don't own any jerseys or anything, but I got this one because of Tezos. But anyway, Mike was telling me about his feelings about total addressable market, this and that, and he said, somebody needs to really write some some definitive thing. They should write a whole dissertation. Someone needs to get a PhD just about this topic. And I joked that he should do it. And this morning, as a joke, because somebody showed me the new version of one of the updates to the new model for ChatGPT, I asked ChatGPT to write the dissertation, and I texted it to Mike, and I said, and what was funny is at the top it said, thinking for 33 seconds. Yeah. So it took ChatGPT 33 seconds to think about it, and then wrote what should take somebody a year or two to write after all of their research. And Mike responded saying, a good example of AI hallucinating or something like that. So he's not buying into my dissertation yet, but it is funny, right? Because AI is going to get better and better and better and better and better, but there is only so much it can do. And if you guide it, again, to point you in a certain direction, and you got some alarms going? Was that you, Nate? Or okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking for a second, because I'm wearing headphones, so it felt really funny. But anyway, it's the where I'm getting at is I love the combination of the follow-up and the human element, because everyone who believes that AI is just gonna run their business for them or do this it's not happening anytime soon on anything complicated and worthwhile, right? And I think that we can really do some really interesting things, especially if you're going to entrepreneurs who are coming out the gate with these tools. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun.
No, I think a lot of it's about networking too, right? It's networking with the right people, and if an app that facilitates that, so you can build your network in the space, no matter what space you're in. Helpful.
So talking about that, Nathaneo, you're at Yale, so I think that's some tiny fraction percentage of the world gets to go to Yale, and all the rest of the people go, man, I wish I was at Yale so I could network with people at Yale. And you're the one you're the one building this, right? Which is really awesome. How are you getting this into the hands of other universities and other university students? And how are we going to get this in the hands of people who aren't fortunate enough? I don't want to say lucky, because I'm sure you worked your ass off to get there. But people who are fortunate enough to be at Yale or even CLU, the university next to me, right? We're still a university in the United States, and some of the best locations in the world, right? How are we going to spread this out to create an even more rich environment for everyone?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, the biggest thing we're doing right now is start, because obviously we want to go beyond students and make it accessible for everyone, right? Decentralizing access to entrepreneurship is the goal here. But I think it's very, very simple. I think you just have to reach out. I mean, we reached out to students and did about 35 case studies from students from Harvard and students from state schools to schools in Canada, to University of Toronto, to schools across the West Coast. And all you have to do is email them. You just have to reach out and ask, say, hey, do you guys want a tool that can help change your life, right? And I think a lot of people say yes. So,
and I would one of the things I would throw out too is a lot of these schools have like entrepreneurship clubs and stuff, right? So I'm about to do I think I'm going to be on like a panel of a Shark Tank or something from an entrepreneurship club that's happening near me. By the way, Ryan Coop, who just shared on here, he is he's a blockchain crypto nerd along with Rankin and I. We've known him now for a few years. He's participated in a lot of our events and stuff. But he also speaks about blockchain to a lot of the HBCUs. So he might be. I'll connect you with him too. But he just said he's following you guys. So make sure to connect with him. He might have some of those connections.
Okay.
But that's great. So I mean, you're just getting started, and you're already starting to expand to other universities, other places, and things like that. How can people watching participate or be helpful? Oh, here, let's just give Ryan a shout out, or Coop. I don't know why I see Ryan, the name Ryan on the thing, but I don't know you as Ryan Coop. It's funny. But is that panel at Howard open to the public, or do you have a link we can share with the community? So anybody who's watching, if you're in the area of Howard University, check out the Black Blockchain Summit. If I remember correctly, Black Blockchain Summit had like a live stream link last year. I might be wrong, or maybe Coop, you just shared the videos after the fact. But everyone here, make sure you check into that, especially if you're anywhere near Howard. But yes, I was just we were talking about like the distribution to other schools and places, right? Like, how, I don't know how, Friday is virtual, Saturday is in person. So yeah, anybody look that up. Black Blockchain Summit. It's a really great event.
Nathaneo, don't you also have, aren't you right now getting some of the universities near you? You're going ahead, reaching out, talk to some of their different entrepreneurship clubs. And then you're going to host like an event, right? So you want to bring some of them together where you can host an event to go ahead and kind of educate them, but also to bring kind of all the different ideas from the startups and the founders together.
Yeah, no, exactly. We're finishing our development, as I mentioned, within the next 1 to 2 weeks, and we're launching Series Cohort 1 very soon, which is going to be selecting a few students from different schools, and we can essentially enable them to have private access to series and help build, unlock the entrepreneurial potential, right? So we're going to go around campus to campus, classroom to classroom, club to club, and kind of present why entrepreneurship isn't a career path. I hope I can kind of spark the hearts of some people who maybe kind of in the back of their minds are thinking, we do want to build something one day, right? And especially the younger ones, right? I feel like when you're coming as a freshman, like I'd bet more than 50% of any student population is probably thinking in the back of their minds that they want to revolutionize an industry, and that can be an industry that's been around for hundreds of years, right? People kind of that have maybe wanted to go into finance for a while, let's say, doesn't mean that they're not trying to innovate a new aspect of that, but just having a roadmap and having the certainty that's going to work, that they should go all in on that, right? That's what stops a lot of people from starting, and beyond even starting, stuff stops people from finishing as well. So making that apparent and giving them a way to do that is ultimately the goal.
Now, do you have to go ahead and have your startup created, or if you're still in the idea stage, can people still use series and still come on? Okay.
We've seen, talk to people who kind of help them build their series, for people who just got to get acquired as a student, who are in like the midst of fundraising, the midst of selling the product. And one person came on who just said they want to be an entrepreneur and nothing else, right? So kind of seen all ends of the spectrum.
Perfect.
I think it's awesome. Very cool because there's like a category of people that you hear about it, like you see it on like Shark Tank, like Mark Cuban will call somebody like a wantrepreneur or something, right? Or something like that. Somebody who loves the idea of it but doesn't execute or doesn't do the work, doesn't do the hard part, right? This can help people dive right in and push, and very quickly they'll see if it's for them, right? And you'll see it young and early, so you don't hopefully people don't do the thing where they work at some corporate job for 20, 30 years, feel like they wasted their time, and then jump in and go, oh, wait, this really wasn't for me. Or the other way around, which is even more sad, is they jump out, after 30 years and go, oh my gosh, why didn't I do this when I was 20 years old? And instead I wasted my life being miserable, and I hope that this guides people, because in my opinion, right, let's go a little, crazy high level. Like how important is this? It's not just for personal development, in my opinion. I think this is like crazy important for the fabric of our country, right? And I think worldwide, but like if we want to go super nerdy, right? When I was doing 805 startups, I remember one of the things we used to tell the local government people, which I hated selling to government. It's one of the reasons why I handed it over to Gary, my friend who runs it now, is we used to tell them, like, the biggest category of job creation in our country has and always was startups. Startups and small businesses, not just startups.
I was going to say government.
Well, they just keep pumping. They just keep pumping that money in and growing. The funny thing is, they probably could hire lots more people if they didn't throw away so much money. But let's not go down that rabbit hole, because we could talk trash about the government all day long. But the biggest category of creating jobs in this country and anywhere is startups and small businesses. Biggest category, right? And the idea that more people are starting small businesses and starting startups is not just good for that person, not just good for their lifestyle. It doesn't just mean, hey, there's this potential for them to be their own boss or start their own business, but there is this idea of one, the only way to create generational wealth is to make some kind of move like this, right? So if you're not somebody who doesn't come from money or doesn't have that, the only way to kind of leapfrog the societal freaking rails that we have, whether we like it or not, is to go out there and create something. And it's also, in my opinion, as the son of some immigrants, right, is I always believe that's part of like being American. Part of that American dream is the fact that anyone can come here, or anyone could be born and raised in any way, in any place, in any situation, and start a business, join a company, be something that's not available in other parts of the world, right? Well, and I think that this enables that, and building anything and supporting anything that is making these opportunities for people, I think is absolutely huge. And I think it perpetuates too. So I think that it rolls. What were you going to say, Ranka?
There's a new thing. So we've heard of the two income trap, right? It used to be that you could live off of one income, and then now we got to two incomes, right? Your household needs two incomes. And now we're hearing that people are having side hustles and additional jobs because, one, our currency is being debased. People aren't making as much money. They're having to do side businesses. They have their normal day jobs, and now they're trying to find other ways to generate revenue. Having tools like this out there to help people do these side hustles, to create an independent business so they can break away from their jobs. Most entrepreneurs have a day job, and they're doing their entrepreneurial business at night, trying to build a business before they break off. And so having things like this has helped.
Exactly.
100%. I mean,
I need to write that book, A Side Hustle Trap.
just ask ChatGPT. It'll only take like 30 seconds.
I know, right?
You'll have the book, right? It'll suck, but the book will exist. I mean, that's also a big problem. And I bet you things like this over time will really help us address that, right? Because we're going into a world where we went from, Rankin and I went from not having the internet as like a resource for everyday life to it becoming a resource to everyday life, pretty early for us. We're not that old, but like it not being valuable unless you were a nerd like one of us, right? And getting to the point where everyone has access, right? And Wikipedia exists and all this stuff. That's right. This is the way. And we got to that point, And now I think we're going to get to the point where all of the information that is available to us is going to get really, really shitty. And it's going to be really hard to find the good information, because now AI is trading on AI. And it used to be, oh, okay, I get this website is kind of like an SEO trap. It's kind of crappy content. You could tell it's probably written by somebody in another language, or who speaks another language as their first language. You know, this is an SEO site, but here's Guy Kawasaki's website, and this is a really good way of putting together a pitch deck, right? But now there's going to be, for every Guy Kawasaki website, I could create millions of pages of shitty derivative content related to that you might find instead of that. And then the next version of the shitty derivative content is going to be trained on my crappy version of content, mixed with that crappy SEO content. And then the world's just going to be inundated with bad quality
Seems like a lot
advice.
of movies we watch these days.
Right, but like we're kind of turning into a snake eating its own tail, and without being guided towards real human mentors and quality content, I think we're gonna run into some problems, right? And maybe in a sense, you know, I think we got to the point where specific universities might not have mattered that much, other than the networking value. Because the information is available everywhere, and even the largest universities in the world share a lot of their content for free online.
There's a documentary on this called Idiocracy. You can watch it.
But really, I think it's interesting to think about it this way, because you could use an AI tool like Vera to actually guide you towards good. And then you could use some AI tools like ChatGPT to like do your homework for you, right? But once it comes to the real world, you're not being graded on, on the same kind of scale.
Well, hold on.
You're either gonna close the deal or not close the deal.
We do not encourage Yale students or any student for using ChatGPT to do their homework for them.
I 1000% encourage every student to use every tool that they can to get around any system that they can, because I think honestly that learning how to use tools to potentially even, I don't want people to be dumb. It's like saying it's like people that went, with a calculator you're never going to understand math, right? Well, you have to understand the concepts and all this stuff. So you either will understand it or you don't. But for some people, like me, for example, school was not valuable in the way that school is valuable to other people who are better at studying and doing certain things. What school was valuable for me was a couple of things. I planted my flag in the ground and I said, I'm going to finish this. And so for me, when I do that, I've got to finish it, right? So even though I even got a full-time job while I was going to school and felt like I didn't need to be going to school to be a computer nerd and be in that industry or whatever, I planted my flag in the ground. I was going to finish it. And things that I learned, like how to work in certain groups with certain people, are the things that were valuable. Meeting people and being accountable. I was a terrible student. I got terrible grades, but I did what I needed to do to check the boxes, get the diploma, do the thing, and do it. And I think that that's a part of learning, right? Yeah. If you might not fit into the, I can really read a history book and then write a 20-page report about something. If you don't fit into that, you still, if you have that major, you still have to do it. You still have to find a way. And maybe using some of these tools will help you find a way. Hopefully the teachers are good at making sure you actually know and understand the concepts, because, cheating is probably so easy in that respect. I say use it all, get whatever thing you need to get to help you along your journey.
I think the best thing about going to school is knowing how to ask the right questions, right? 100%. The way you really learn in life is asking the right questions. And sometimes we don't know what the questions are to ask. And so hopefully Vera can also help with that.
Well, there you go. Okay, we're not in the university world. We are running a company. Now, let's say Nate and Nathaneo are two people that just went to school. Nate did everything without ChatGPT. Nathaneo did everything with the help of ChatGPT and Claude and Google and whatever tool he had at his disposal. And let's say Nate can understand binary programming language and is the biggest nerd for understanding how to write code we've ever met. And Nathaneo isn't as good at him as that. But Nathaneo is better at asking for help with different things. And then we hire Nathaneo, we hire Nate, and we go, okay, this new startup we're building is built in this programming language. This is what we need to build. And Nate would probably pick up the programming language faster and start writing code and be better at it in certain ways. But Nathaneo could probably get the same assignment, know how to ask the questions, get help off the internet, and may actually be faster at doing it. Now, the quality of the code is different. They're two different people, but like they both could qualify to be great engineers, right? So, but they have totally different approaches. And when things shift and change, or when something happens, Nathaneo might be more equipped to shuck and jive with what
right
changes,
now.
Right? So it's two different styles, and they still accomplish the same goal.
I would argue with AI right now as it stands, Nathaneo might, in this situation, might be able to get 80% of it, but you would still need to make the other 20% to finish it.
No, Nathaneo is still a good programmer. I'm just saying he's not as good, but he knew how to game the system.
Well, I know, but
so he would get the 80%.
Like,
he'd get.
You still need a good programmer to finish the 20% of the project to actually get to work.
Okay, but here's the thing: if they both have an 8-hour day, Nathaneo in the first half hour gets that 80% done, and then spends the rest of the day on 20%. And Nate has to spend 8 hours to do 100% of the work, right? So the quality is going to be probably different, right? There's going to be AI errors and things like that, but there's human errors too, right? I'm a very not technical person. I mean, I'm technical compared to most people maybe in my position, but I do coding tutorials, different things all the time. And I'll be like sitting there at midnight pulling my hair out because I'll realize like I made an error because I didn't know the difference in this programming language between an apostrophe and a quotation mark.
It's about asking the right question, knowing that. It's about asking the right question.
Right, but all I'm saying is there's the different thing. So when you said, you don't condone using ChatGPT to kind of cheat and do work, I'm going, use every tool at your disposal. It's like saying I'm a contractor and it's cheating to use it's cheating to use a hand drill. I'm gonna screw it with my hand. Fuck that. Of course, you're a contractor. You're gonna get the best drill in the world, and you're gonna drill the hole. Right? That's what you do when you get out into the real world. So use the tools that exist in the real world to make you the best version of you, right? Like,
well, as we're talking about school, I think the question as we come back to Daniel here is like schools being one of your targets right now that you're looking to go ahead and collab with. For the people that are on the call, if they do have connections to different colleges and universities, private universities, how do you want them to get in touch with you so that you can go ahead and speak to some of those universities, some of their department heads, whether it's on the marketing side, the business side, or it's the entrepreneurship center? Do you want that to be your email, Twitter, LinkedIn, going through the website? How do you want them to reach out to you?
Oh, you're talking about for series? I think the biggest
series.
Go on to join us, right? That's how you can join the network. And then from there, obviously, we're on boarding people to kind of be within Vera and all that. We also have our waitlist button there. We're making that functional tonight. It's definitely off right now. Go and join us. Yeah, that should, on the top right there, should take you to the next page where you can sign up with Vera's network and get going from there.
Yeah,
okay.
So
perfect.
Yeah. So and Nate, thank you for getting us on track to kind of wrap this up because we're running out of time, and that was a great segue from mine and Rankin's ADD moment there. So, but
what about DGB?
But yes,
you got a DGB information?
Yeah, we should throw DGB. If you are an entrepreneur, by the way, if you're an entrepreneur and you're using Series and you're starting a company, I hope you share that company with us and go to dgb.vc and go to the contact form. And anybody watching, sign up on the newsletter and make sure to follow us everywhere and all that stuff. But before we go, Nathaneo, series.so. any other links or places you want people to connect with you or follow you?
Yeah, just search me up on LinkedIn or Twitter, Nathaneo Johnson. Put there in the title. And besides that, yeah, we're trying to make entrepreneurship a career path. I think that's the biggest thing here. I'm making it certain of where you're gonna end up. I think it's one of the biggest things you can do for anyone starting on that journey. So join us.
I love it. Thank you so much. Good luck at school. Don't pull a me, and pay attention, make it count. You're there. So show up and make it count. But I'm so excited for series and what's going on. Good luck at Yale. Anyone else got any last words before we finish off the stream?
No, I think we're good.
All right, everyone. See you next week. Like I said, message us on all the DGB accounts and our personal accounts. See everyone soon. Thanks, everyone.
All right, guys. Take care.
Thanks.
All right.
Boom.